the moon. You know I'm always moon gazing. Damn, that looks so cool with the clouds. Oh shit. That's really nice. Oh my gosh. The sun already went down. I would go that way, but I just realized there's gonna be a bunch of mosquitoes, so I'm not about to go that way. So one of the important parts of healing and the divine path is learning discernment. So basically being able to know the difference between well, what's reality, what's just your emotions and anxieties and fears, and what is your intuition and your mind. Hang on. So the reason I say this is it's kind of like the saying, if the shoe fits, wear it, but it's the opposite. Like, that's what you learn with discernment, is basically being able to feel into, does this resonate with me or not? Is this actually true or not? What is just opinion versus fact? I mean, truth really is, some truths are very subjective in nature, but then that would be an opinion, so that would be a personal truth. Why am I saying all of this? Saying all of this because oh shit. I'm saying all of this because in order to really ascend and transcend ego, fuck, a bug just flew on me. Sheesh. I think that's a bun or something. Basically what I'm saying is discernment is key, because just because someone says something doesn't mean it applies to you, and just because someone says something doesn't mean it's true, at least not maybe for you. That's not all supposed to rhyme, but the point is, if you feel that something doesn't apply, who cares? Usually with tarot, let me think about it. Okay, I'm gonna put it like this. If you haven't done enough healing and you're watching tarot, one of the common things that happens for people who have not fully healed their trauma and worked on their self-esteem and feeling secure in themselves is that unhealed people take a lot of things personally that aren't personal. They tend to derive meaning from things that don't actually mean anything. It just triggers fears in the person. All of a sudden, because it triggers fear, you think that, oh, that must apply to me. But the reality of it is sometimes when you're watching tarot, you get triggered and it's not, how do I put it? Basically what I'm saying is, if you notice you get triggered during a tarot reading, you might want to look at why you got so triggered. Is it fear because you're afraid that that's who you are? Or is it a trigger because someone at some point led you to internalize certain beliefs about yourself that aren't true? And so therefore, when you hear certain things that are similar, you tend to personalize them instead of looking at, why does that bother me? Especially if you don't think it applies. So, my point is, discernment is key. It's a major part of the healing process. And it takes a lot of processing your emotions and grief, releasing this grief and emotion, allowing yourself to feel it, figuring out what types of beliefs that you have about self that are not your own, basically internalized beliefs. Let's see, what else? Also, if you've been through trauma or been through turmoil, healing your nervous system, calming your nervous system down, is also going to help you learn how to discern. Because what you have to know is, if you grew up in a situation where people treated you a certain type of way, or even say you were, it could be friendships, it could be romantic relationships, but where was I going with that? Oh yeah, it could be that someone in the past that you dated, or your ex-best friend from middle school, made you feel less than or not good enough. And so now, or maybe this ex or whoever, previous people in your life, made you feel like you weren't good enough, or, and then maybe when you reacted to them or something like that, they would treat you like, you had control issues. So now that idea triggers you and leads you to think that, if you think about it, it's kind of it's a self-centered thing. And the reason it's a self-centered thing, and that makes sense, is nobody probably, if you're getting triggered like that, you probably didn't receive a lot of validation. Hang on. All right, so my point ultimately is maybe somebody in the past made you feel not good enough, and yeah. So now, every time someone says something that's remotely similar to that person or parent or whoever that made you feel not good enough, oh shit, you get defensive or you get triggered, angry. That should be telling you that there's something, no, that is telling you that there's something there that you have not yet healed. And if you're getting that triggered, it doesn't have to do usually with the present. I mean, it can it can be something in the present that's similar or distressing in a similar way. But if you're getting that hurt, it's probably more deeply rooted than you think. And I think like the things I just mentioned to heal are extremely important, because if you're not seeing yourself accurately, if your self-esteem and confidence is fucked because you're, operating based on internalized beliefs from people that told you that you weren't good enough, or that you're this or you're that, you're not going to be able to discern anything right. You're discerning things through the lens of fear, insecurity, not feeling good enough. And that belief, not feeling good enough, is very, very common internalized belief that people, end up having to deal with later in life, because someone at some point may have dismissed, your feelings, or dismissed who you are as a person, downplayed it, minimized it. And so that's the ego. When you're seeing stuff like that, that's a good way to know that your ego is at play. So if you are becoming really defensive about something, that's your ego. And that's where you need to look at, okay, again, where was I not taught how to regulate my ego as a child? And a lot of times traumas are surrounded by that, because it's like part of balancing ego is, well, I don't even want to go that route with it, but I guess what I'm saying is, the other thing that you need to do if you've been through a lot of trauma like that and you find yourself getting triggered, like I said, calming your nervous system, finding ways to... So basically when you're in a lot of trauma and stress and stuff like that, you end up being in like fight, flight, or freeze mode for extended periods, which then conditions your body to essentially always be in that heightened state. And so over time, that puts a lot of stress on your body. And on top of it, that makes it really hard to discern, because whenever you're seeing something, again, it's coming through the lens of... what was I just saying? Through the lens of a traumatized, over heightened, sensitive nervous system that has been, placed out of whack in that way by people who have traumatized you. But then what ends up happening is you carry that into the present, and then anybody who triggers that in you, a lot of times they pay. They have to pay because you're not understanding or recognizing the difference between truth, between what's your ego, what's fears, insecurities, and internalized beliefs. So it's like, that's why I'm saying it's really important to... And if you didn't hear all of it, you can rewind, and I gave like concrete suggestions of what you can do to help yourself start to heal that stuff, so that when you watch tarot or just go out in the world, period, and you have interactions with people, you start to see it from like kind of like a brand new lens. Like that's the point in healing is, and it's hard, you're not going to completely get a clean slate if you've been seriously traumatized, but like getting to a place where you know you've had these experiences, but despite these experiences, they're separate from you. That trauma, those fears, they're separate. That's not you. Internalized beliefs, they're separate. So part of discernment is learning how to separate yourself from your emotions, separate yourself from ego, separate yourself, and recognize that 10 times out of 10, nothing that anyone else says or does is personal, because everything that everybody's doing is basically a projection of their own experience onto you. So therefore, the person who's a bitch at the store gives you a dirty look, it's not about you. She doesn't feel good about herself because, I don't know, somebody somewhere along the line made her feel inadequate. So see how that becomes other people's problems? You not feeling good enough and then acting like other people feel the same just because you see some shit that triggers you. If you think about it, it's pretty delusional. And I'm not saying that in an offensive way. People who have been severely traumatized and have CPTSD, it's oftentimes mistaken with borderline personality disorder. And I understand why. Because people who have been severely traumatized, like I said, struggle with all those things I just mentioned, regulating the nervous system, coming from like a logical, rational place that's not just centered around ego and emotions. And that's hard to do when you haven't healed. So when you start finding yourself getting triggered and upset and defensive, oh shit, what the fuck was that? Oh God. What the fuck was that? Okay. I stepped on something. I don't even want to go back and see. Okay. Yep. Damn. So yeah. Your ego will get you into a lot of trouble. Yeah, your ego can get you into a lot of trouble if you don't know how to regulate it and recognize it when it's taking over.